at the 10.
Yep. I think maybe I had set for 7:05. Either way, what's going on, guys? Welcome on into Fantasy Intervention. Get excited for yet another episode where we got DFS. God, I love DFS. Love DFS. And I've got a guest with me too, who I absolutely love and adore. Rosalie Michaels over there. What's going on, Rosalie? How you doing?
Doing good. It's finally starting to cool down, and we're getting a little bit. We can't call it fall in Phoenix yet because it's still in the 90s during the day, but
God.
It's not in the hundreds. So that's fall.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a good thing. It's not too bad, I guess.
No.
See, over here in Virginia Beach, it's really super muggy. And luckily that's kind of cooled down and it's kind of stopped. In the summertime, you're sweating out 100 pounds worth of water pretty much. So it's pretty brutal. But yeah, you want to let everybody know where to find you, Rosalie, and why you are so credible and amazing.
Credible. There's a word, isn't it? So yeah. So hey everyone, I'm Rosalie Michaels, also known as the Fantasy Girl on your fantasy football world. I work with DraftKings on a weekly basis. I am their only female analyst. So I work with them for their pregame show from 11:30 to 1 right up until game time. So we talk about all the Sunday slate. And then I do the Monday night showdown, that show before as well. And then I'm the fantasy analyst for a number of different radio stations across the nation as well.
Yeah. What kind of radio do you do over there? I was always curious about that.
Well, it's all sports stations. So there's one in New York, there's one in Palm Springs, there's one in Phoenix, there's one, where are we now? So I just come on and do either like a Zoom type of thing if they do that for their radio station, or sometimes I'm just on the phone, just answering sit-start questions, talking about fantasy football in general leading up to the season, talking about all the different changes this season, right? And how to manage this. With DFS, it's a little bit different. DFS, it's easier to manage because we know what's happening. And you're getting, if there's not a game that's being played on Sunday, that's okay. So then it's not in the lineup. But for season long, it could really disintegrate pretty quickly if they don't figure out how to get this stuff under wraps.
Yeah, and there's some interesting takes out there right now, because people are genuinely concerned that the season's going to get canceled, right? Yeah. And especially, concerned that the Titans are going to have to forfeit, and then Josh Allen won't actually get credit for a game. And there goes Josh Allen's record-breaking season that I thought was coming, So that's a little bit of a bummer. So I kind of propose, hey, make the Patriots and the the Titans both forfeit, and then you end up having the Denver Broncos up against the Bills, so that way they can keep the teams that are, actually following the rules, able to play,
Yeah. I've heard that comment here. And I mean, that's what we've got so far. There's 3 potential games this week, right? That could have, I think it's just going to be the 2 now at this point, but we already have 1, game on a bye, 2 teams on a bye. And now we've got some postponed games. And what if those don't play, so it's that, but I hate forfeits. I'm going to tell you right now, I hate forfeits. I don't think they're fair. I don't think it's okay. I understand in the terms of with the Titans that, hey, if you're not following the rules and you're not making sure that you're staying safe, then you're going to forfeit. I get that, but it's still, I hate it. I hate it for the sport. I hate it for the league. I hate it for fantasy, perspectives. So that's how I feel about the forfeits. I don't like them.
I'm not a fan of the forfeits either. I can't get behind them. If they were going to forfeit, then I still would want 2 teams that have been following the rules to play. But I think that they should just push back the playoffs, a week, and have all the COVID games, that happened, maybe even 2 weeks to an extent, but make all those COVID, games that got canceled or postponed played the last week of the, the last week of the season.
How do you do that when you've got, like in this case, it would be the Titans would be 2. Those are 2 games for the Titans.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really work.
Well,
And
they already have the other one put where the bye is, correct?
Yes, they do. So you mean if it continues to move forward like that? Plus, I think, we have to remember too, these teams spend the week preparing for each other, game planning for, the opponent that they have, to switch it up and go, oh, wait, no. You're going to be playing, the Bills this week instead of the Patriots. That's not fair to that team either,
Good point.
So
great point, actually.
Yeah, so it's hard to. What we need, that NFL players, NFL staff, NFL coaches, please do everything in your power. Just it's the bubble is the only thing that has been working for sports. Baseball seemed to have gotten it back on track, right? So.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how they do it moving forward. But we don't have any of the answers. We're not behind the scenes. We don't see a lot of that stuff, so we have no idea which way it's going to go. But what we do know is who to play in DFS this week, right?
That's what we do know. Let me get my glasses on so I can see.
Now, the DFS this week is strange. So it's been an interesting season so far. And I talked about this last week on Friday's show with Bo and Scott about how I wrote in the preseason, right? How I didn't expect to see a massive increase in points scored due to COVID and not having an off season as a result, right? Of not having preseason OTAs, whatever the case was. I didn't expect there to be a massive increase in scoring. Yeah. But when we look at it, right, there was actually a massive increase in scoring over the first few weeks. Yeah. And so I was like, why did all of my research and why did everything that I dove into tell me otherwise? And when I went back and I looked at it, it was like the perfect storm of bad defenses with these excellent, firepower offenses matching up against each other over the first few weeks, right? Yeah. We've seen the Seahawks Cowboys, the Lions Cardinals, the Titans Vikings, the Packers and Saints. And I'm including the Saints, by the way, who are bottom 15 in passing yards allowed and third in passing touchdowns allowed. And then, of course, the Browns and Cowboys this past week. It's just shootout after shootout after shootout.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but to be fair, let's look at this. Like last year, Tampa Bay's defense was terrible. You targeted Tampa Bay's defense when it came to DFS, when it came to season long, who you were starting and who you were sitting. This year, they're one of the best, they didn't look like it last night versus the Bears, although they did for a while. They had some injuries that came in, but it is hard to see exactly how you can do a little bit of tweaking when it comes to off-season changes and things like that. But until you actually see them in action and see what they do, last year Arizona's defense terrible. This year they have tightened up quite a bit, especially against the tight end position. They were the go-to for tight ends last year. That's who you targeted for tight ends. It's not so anymore. So, so to our off-season research, I know because I do it too. And I, look at what they did last year and kind of try to tweak that for this year. But there's been some surprises, no doubt.
Well, the biggest thing that I took away from this, right, was the fact that you were able to double stack players and over the first part of the year and attack these games. Yeah. And I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case, this upcoming week. Yeah. And moving forward, there's some games that we could actually see where the scoring actually kind of dials back a little bit this upcoming week because you're not having great offenses with bad defenses face off up against one another. Well,
except, you do have the Dallas Giants game.
That is one. That is one.
Dallas Giants game. There's also the Minnesota-Seattle game. Probably going to be a pretty high-scoring one as well.
I think that's Sunday night. So that's not going to be on the Sunday slate that we're trying to attack.
Yeah, it is Sunday night. But yeah, you're right. In the main slate of games. But I was thinking with season long, it's definitely a game that you want on your radar. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. We have the Bills up against the Titans if they even do play. And, I don't think they're going to pass as much, the Bills, that is, because I think that they're going to be crushing the Titans and there's not going to be any reason to pass. The Titans, half their team is going to be out, right? And then,
is Jonnu in? I haven't seen the latest injury report. So that's the thing with this year is the injury report is key. much more so than in previous seasons.
Man,
like that injury report. Leonard Fournette was doubtful up until game time last night, and then all of a sudden, guess what? He's playing. I mean, he didn't do anything, but he was in the game. And so people are like, should I start him? I'm like, no.
No, he was doubtful.
No, he was doubtful until like a minute ago. That does not inspire confidence.
No, so, and then we have like the Steelers game, with Carson Wentz, of course. I mean, the Steelers could completely wrap up Carson Wentz. I think it's going to prevent a shootout from happening. We have the Cowboys, and they could actually be blowing out the Giants, which means that you might not see as much volume from Cooper and Lamb. It's very possible, although the Cowboys defense does suck.
Yeah,
Jones hasn't been good.
Yeah, Jones hasn't been good, and I looked at the over under, and it's at 54, and I'm wondering how that it's going to get there. But I mean, Cleveland was able to put up almost 50 points. So, do you think that the Giants could probably put up 20, maybe 25?
Oh man, I don't know about that. I think that
I don't know. I mean,
the only way that it's going to hit the over under is if the Cowboys probably put up 40 points, or 35, I'll say.
Yeah,
I think that the
games are hitting over like crazy this season.
Well, that was kind of my point, because we're not seeing that same type of thing happen right now. That's fair. The Rams up against Washington. Washington's defense looks really, really good this year. The Cardinals, right? I always look to them for a DFS option.
Yeah.
But they might only need 3 touchdowns to beat the Jets, even with their bad defense. It's just a situation where I think that the games could actually hit under a lot more often than what they've hit so far this year. So there's a couple games where I'm trying to actually find double stack options if I have that chance. But I think this is the week where you go single stack and you kind of hope that one player just goes off for a certain team versus multiple guys from the same team. Like I don't feel like it's a Lockett Metcalf type situation as much this week.
What do you think about, because there are a number of games. I mean, obviously the KC Las Vegas game is definitely one you could double stack. Definitely one you could stack.
I mean, what are the chances that
you could stack either Kelsey and CEH, and then or Waller and Derek Carr. They're going to throw the ball. They're throwing the ball. They're actually 10th rated offense. Not 10th ranked offense by DVOA in Las Vegas right now. They're scoring some points. Yeah, so I can see that game being high scoring, and I can definitely see some good stacks there. But do you want to go kind of into certain games and talk about them individually?
Yeah, absolutely. We're about to do that right now. But I will say Adam Levitan over at Establish the Run, he had this little article that I read last week, and I wanted to go over this with you too. Top 10 lineups in the Millie Maker used a QB and 2 of his teammates on 41% of the time, right? Mm-hmm. So those top 10 lineups finished, right? Yeah. The field did it only 28.9% of the time. So the 2 teammate construction, right? Mm-hmm. Like the 2 stacks, that did hit. However, when we look at single stacking, the top 10 lineups actually did it 49.1% of the time instead of 41% of the time. So you're actually hitting a lot more often with a single stack than you are a double stack. And by the way, this is in like 452 different weeks that he compiled these stats. But since probably, the Millie Maker started. But either way, I just feel like this could actually be the week where you're going to hit on a single stack versus the previous weeks. A lot of people were hitting on the double stacks. So let's go to the stacks that we want to do. Okay. We're going to go to Houston and Jacksonville. The over-under is going to be 54.
Got it.
So when I sit there and I look at some of these, receivers that have put up numbers up against Jacksonville, it's been Boyd, Parker, right? Devontae Parker, Tyler Boyd, Paris Campbell, and Adam Humphries.
Yeah.
They all, what do they have in common? They're on the slot, right?
Mm-hmm.
But none of them had that massive game, like 150-yard, 2-touchdown type week. So I think in cash games, I think Cobbs is a safe play. But Fuller, who saw 75 out of 178 of his snaps out of the slot, he could have that big playability while still getting the floor. And I think he's a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. What do you think?
I think that I'd actually go to the stack on the other end and bring it around from the Houston side. So I would stack the Jacksonville side. and then bring it around to the Houston side. Just because Houston their offense is not clicking. It's really not clicking. So if I want, if I want to target this game, I want the guys that they're going to score. Weird, right? So, I love J-Rob in this matchup, so I'm absolutely targeting him. He's getting some targets. He's 8th in the league overall in terms of fantasy points per game right now. And now he goes against Houston, who's giving up about 33 fantasy points a game. So we watch what they've done in certain when we watch what they've done against opposing offenses.
Yep.
It's a pretty setup for our boy J-Rob. I mean, last week Dalvin Cook with 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. The week before that, James Conner with 109 yards and a touchdown. Week before that, you have the plethora of Baltimore people, the Baltimore rushing attack, which was, over 100 yards, a touchdown to Mark Ingram, 54 yards out of Lamar Jackson as well. And then the first week, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, his first week in the league, just completely annihilated. So with J-Rob and the amount of touches that he's getting a crap ton of touches right now. He's also, the red zone the guy who's getting the most red zone touches, which is 6 right now, which isn't huge, but he's still the one that's being looked to most in that offense. And the Jacksonville offense is not terrible. They're scoring some points. They're 6th in the league by DVOA. So, I would maybe do a Minshew J-Rob, because we know Minshew can do some magic. Minshew has had some really nice games. I mean, last week he did throw for over 300 yards, didn't have a touchdown, but did throw for over 300 yards and no interceptions too. So that's something I'm definitely looking at. The other question becomes, who on the other side do you bring it back with?
Well, so the reason why I went with Texans over going with Minshew, right, is because I think that the ownership's going to be down on Watson. I believe he's either the 5th or 6th most expensive, quarterback on the week so far. And normally you don't want that, but that could scare ownership off.
Yeah.
The other thing is Jacksonville blitzes the quarterback on only 21% of the dropbacks, which is the 6th least in the NFL. Watson, who hasn't had much time back there, he's ranked 33rd for pocket protection or protection in the pocket. So he hasn't had much time, but if he's not getting pressure on him, he's actually really, really good. He leads the NFL in completion percentage with a clean pocket, completing 87.8% of his passes. That's insane.
Yeah.
But the bigger part that I'm looking at is he's 8th in completion percentage on deep balls. So if we can sit there and we can give him a clean pocket and we can allow him to have time back there for Will Fuller to get down the field, I mean, we could see easily Will Fuller coming out of this with 2 touchdowns, and Watson having 2 touchdowns in the air, maybe 1 on the ground, maybe 1 to his tight end. I think it has a lot of upside with Watson. Meanwhile, with Minshew, I know that you're going to get a great, great floor from him because this defense is terrible. And I think that they are going to have to pass at some point because this, is looking kind of like a shootout type game. I just don't know if he has the same ceiling that Watson has for tournaments.
You know what? I was actually wrong about Minshew. I don't know who I was thinking of that had the 300-yard game with 0-0. But yeah, Minshew he was 351 with 2-1 against Cincinnati. He was 275, 0-1 against Miami, which is the game we thought he would blow up. That was the only one he hasn't blown up, though. The week before that, 339 for 3-2 versus Tennessee, a good Titans defense, right? They're not terrible. They're about mid-tier. They're definitely better than Houston's defense.
Yeah.
And then against Indy, which we know has a really good defense, only 173 yards, but he had those 3 touchdowns. So
I've got to think of a bet for this one that we have to live up to later. You got Minshew, I got Watson. But no, I mean, we also have to counter in that the amount of money it costs to play these guys. So that's where you're going with that. But we agree, like this is J-Rob's going to be a piece, right? I think DJ Chark is going to be a piece this week. I think he's going to absolutely crush it. And then we talked about Will Fuller, the guy that I'm kind of like hesitant about because he did burn me last week a little bit.
Yeah.
Man, David Johnson. Romy Cornell, who's taking over the team, was actually 5th and 6th in rushing attempts as the head coach of the Chiefs. He also was in the top half of the league when he was the head coach of the Browns for 2 out of the 4 years. Obviously, that Browns team was brutal, so they couldn't really run the ball as much as he probably wanted to.
They had one winning season. They went 10-6 one season.
Yeah. Yep, so. You're right. That was his 3rd season, I believe.
Yeah.
Mixon this past week hung up 151 and 2 touchdowns on Jacksonville. Yep. So do you think you can play David Johnson this week? I hate saying it. It makes me cringe.
Yeah, I think I like it better than, you look at Fuller. Fuller's at 6,600. Not a lot, but he's still, let me see, 7th, 8th?
He's up there. He's up there for sure, which is why I think his ownership is going to be in the dirt.
Averaging, you're probably absolutely right. Averaging about 15.9 fantasy points per game. But look at David Johnson, and he is down at 5,200, averaging 12.7 fantasy points per game, has the easier matchup, because Jacksonville is weak, very weak, 26th against the run, but 10th against the pass. A lot of that has to do with the numbers that happened last week. But I just, if you look at the people that have actually played, the teams that have played, remember that we saw Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines, really combine for a lot of fantasy points that first week. Marlon Mack was in there a little bit too. Derrick Henry didn't score a touchdown, but then we had Mixon last week really go off. So they're kind of middling. They're giving up some games, but does Cornell really kind of focus on the run instead of trying to throw the ball so much to manage the clock a little bit more, knowing that their defense is not stopping any offenses very well right now?
Yeah, and it's a risky play for DFS, right? So you kind of have to have like the perfect lineup where he fits in. But yeah, you're 100% correct. And to your point about J-Rob as well, I do want to touch on that real quick. Last week, Cook went for 120 and like 2 touchdowns or something like that. And the Texans are actually giving up a whopping 21 explosive runs to the running back so far this year. That's insane.
Wow.
21 explosive runs to the running back. They are literally a giant gaping hole on the defensive line. It's bad.
We're talking about giant gaping holes and explosiveness.
That's going to be the show name. It's going to be giant gaping holes and explosions.
Wow. You're going to go.
Man. You just came up with the show name. I love it. Plus his ownership last time I checked was around 5% or so. So, you're not going to be. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think he will be. I mean, the thing with J-Rob is that there's a good amount of good choices around him. CEH is only $100 more, also has a fantastic matchup versus Las Vegas, right? The worst against the running back position, 38 fantasy points per game. That's going to be nice for CEH. The question is, they're always going to have Mahomes involved. They're never going to really feed him as much as he wants, like they will like a Derrick Henry, right? But the matchup's too good. He's going to have those big runs and score. So he's $100 more. You've got, we just talked about David Johnson. Todd Gurley this week too is 5,700, goes up against Carolina, and we're going
to talk about that one.
Yeah, they're using him. So we'll talk about that later. So I think that J-Rob won't have too much chalk on him because there's some really good options at running back. So, but yeah, if you're targeting this game, I don't see how you keep him out of your lineup.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. All right, on to the next game that we're going to be targeting. And you just brought it up. The Carolina and Atlanta game. And this is weird. This is like a weird matchup because I don't know if we're going to get like no points because like the team's going to try and keep their team or keep their defense from being on the field because both defenses are overall pretty bad. Yeah. So, are we going to go more towards like the Mike Davis type lineups and Todd Gurley type lineups, or, can we hit on these wide receivers? Because, I mean, honestly, I think that Robbie Anderson's ownership is going to be higher than DJ Moore's. And I think that DJ Moore might actually be a bargain to an extent.
Yeah, you're right. I don't think that they're going to change up their entire game plan because their defenses are doing terribly. I think they know that they're going to have to score a lot of points to keep up with the other team, right? So you can't, to change your game plan because of that would be silly. You are putting up points, especially in Atlanta's case. They are putting up points, even though their offense isn't ranked very well based on who they've been playing. So, but you're right. Both defenses terrible in the bottom 10 on both of them. So I think you have to look to this game. And I do like the running backs in both of this game. So do you do a running back and a wide receiver, or a running back and the QB? That's, I think, more of the question if you're going to stack them. I think I'd probably rather be on the – I'm not a fan of Matt Ryan this week. I think he's going to have some trouble because Carolina, as bad as they are against the run, they're pretty good against the QB.
Yeah, they actually are. Very good
against the QB. So I don't think I'd target the Atlanta pass game. I think I'd probably, if I'm going to target Teddy Bridgewater, who again is cheaper. I think he is going to be chalky because he is, on that cheaper side, and because of the matchup, Atlanta lets up the most amount of fantasy points to the quarterback position, and Teddy's been looking pretty good.
Yeah. No, he really has. I mean, he was outrunning Kyler Murray last week, right? Yeah, taking that one to the house. Yeah. So right now, earlier today, Teddy Bridgewater was at 2% owned. He's already jumped up to almost 12% for the estimated ownership. Yeah. So he's good. By the time the game kicks off, like, we could see him up around 20%. Because a lot of these guys that play, 150 lineups and stuff, they're not playing out the Teddy Bridgewater guys because they want to keep that percentage down, up until game time. So it's something where I'm a little bit, nervous playing him. But we talk about this passing game, right? This passing game for Carolina is clicking. But what's weird for me is the way that they're using DJ Moore. Yeah. Right? They're keeping them all on one side. They're not using them on the crossing routes like I thought that they would as much. I mean, you got a couple of them and outs and stuff. But looking at this, you have 1, 2, 3 crossing and 1 slant. I mean, that's not good. That's not the way that DJ Moore was designed to, be used in this offense. Yeah. And I'm going to pop over to Robbie Anderson real quick, and we're going to see Robbie Anderson doing exactly what I thought DJ Moore was going to be doing in this offense, which is, let's go with this one. I don't know. Can you see that right on the screen? Yeah, I see it. I mean, you have crossing routes, you have, slant patterns, you have, I guess, receptions out of the backfield for screenplays. Like, I mean, what is going on over there? Yeah, well, when you look at the breakup too, when you look at where they're running out of, I mean, Robbie Anderson is pretty even across the board, right? DJ Moore is as well, but he leans a little bit more left on the left side of the field. About 50% of the time, he's on the left side of the field. I think we have to remember, though, what's key here is Robbie and Matt Rule have history, right? So he knows what Robbie can do. He's more familiar with Robbie. Maybe that's why we're seeing, him do a little bit more and do more of what you expected from DJ Moore. I got you. I know where you're going with that. So because of the familiarity that he has with what Robbie can do, that was his college coach. So he has that connection with him. And I thought that Robbie was a good sleeper pick coming into the season because of the connection that they have. But the question becomes, I mean, do you even keep QB out of it? I don't think you can, because of the fact that Atlanta gives up the most fantasy points to the QB position. Yeah, there's got to be a lineup that you throw them in there for sure. But could you do a Mike Davis and a Robbie Anderson stack, or maybe a double stack? I mean, they don't give us up as many
fantasy points to the wide receiver position as they do in general. Atlanta doesn't, but like they do with the RB, like they do with the QB. But I think there's some really good opportunity there for Robbie. When we look at Atlanta and the wide receivers versus Atlanta, I mean, CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper were able to have over 100-yard games, but didn't get any touchdowns. But, the following week you had Robinson, A-Rob, who is right now one of my favorite wide receivers in the league. Just love that guy, and the fact that he's getting the amount of targets that he's getting makes me so happy. But even Anthony Miller scored in that. But then last week versus Green Bay, they were pretty good against Green Bay.
Yeah, overall. But I mean, also you have to keep in mind that half the Green Bay, wide receiver corps was out too.
Yeah, so. I mean, it was all Tanyan, right? It was all Tanyan.
I won some money on Tanyan last week. I'll tell you that. I won a lot of money on Tanyan.
Yeah, he was an easy pick because that's where the weakness for this pass game is. I mean, Jimmy Graham scored on him twice. Dalton Schultz was able to score on him in week 2. So, and Greg Olsen, old Greg Olsen, was able to score on him in week 1. So, yeah, that's where the touchdowns are coming against the Falcons, is at the tight end position. And you see they also give up the most fantasy points to the tight end. So, am I touching the Carolina Panthers tight end? Probably not. I mean, how much is
There's a lot of people that are on Ian Thomas this week.
I know, that's the problem. He's probably going to be pretty chalky. How much is he this week? Logan is 3,500.
The system doesn't use the tight end like that.
I know. Well, look at his usage. He's got 2 catches for 5 and a touchdown, 1 catch for 9, zeros. Manhurts had 1 for 8. Yeah. So the most receptions they've had at the tight end position for the Panthers is 3. Meanwhile, you've got Robbie Anderson with 8, DJ Moore with 4, Curtis Samuel with 3, and, Mike Davis with 5 and then 8 the week before that. So, yeah, that's not who I'm looking to. Especially, in the red zone, they are very RB heavy, Carolina is, as far as touches. 31 red zone touches to the RB position, 11 to the wide receiver, 2 to the 2 targets to the tight end position. So I think you have to have Mike Davis in there if you're going to target this game.
Well, the thing that I'm looking at is DJ Moore here, like square in the eyes. I love DJ Moore. You talked about how he's pretty much almost always on the left side of the field. Yeah. That spot I use RotoWire to get my snaps from. So yeah. I love DJ Moore. He's going to be matched up against Isaiah Oliver.
Yeah.
And Isaiah Oliver has already allowed a whopping 255 yards and 2 touchdowns while in coverage.
Yeah.
This is terrible. And I know that AJ Terrell is coming back, who's been terrible too. But yeah, I mean, Robbie Anderson, sure, he's a play, but I think he's just too much of a chalk play. And I'm gravitating towards DJ Moore huge. Now, when it comes to Mike Davis, I'm kind of hoping that he kind of bombs. I mean, I've been watching him this week, and earlier this week he was at 2% ownership, then he was at 5% ownership, then he was at 8% ownership. Now he's at 13% ownership, and let me check the most recent one real quick. I mean, his ownership is just getting blown through the roof.
Yeah.
So I expect his ownership. He's up at 48% now.
What?
Oh, Mike Davis is at 48.4% estimated ownership from 36.8 to 6. I was going to say he's going to be at 20% ownership. He's at 48.4. You can't play him.
You can't play him. No, you can't play him. Well, I mean, you could play him. I mean, how much is he? How much is he? How much is he? I mean,
he is 6,400. Kareem Hunt is 100 more.
Yeah. Well, Kareem Hunt's also banged up a little bit. Let's be aware. And when we looked at that breakdown last week of the touches, he was still sharing time, even though Chubb went out. He was still sharing time. So,
and that's going to happen. But the amount of times that they run and the way that they open up this offense, it makes their running game extremely efficient.
Yeah.
So, all right, let me ask you this: would you rather play Robinson, or would you rather play Mike Davis?
Well, at that ownership, I'd play Robinson.
Yeah, I don't think Mike Davis is really a play. Like I might have him in one lineup and just hope that I get lucky and go completely contrarian on the back end of that.
Yeah.
Play like, Miles Sanders up against Pittsburgh or something like that. I don't want to play.
Or you could go and get Chase Edmonds cheap, although he's, I think a lot of people, we could talk about that AZ game too, because that's a big question, the Chase versus Drake, conversation with what's been going on. So, but yeah, there are definitely, I think you do have to go contrarian if you go with Mike Davis, right?
The whole rest of your lineup has to be contrarian almost.
Yeah. So do you, my friend, do you go with a Teddy B stack with Mike Davis if you do it, or do you go with a Robbie Anderson stack or a DJ Moore stack if you go with Mike Davis? DJ Moore is going to be the contrarian guy, right?
Yeah. Yep. DJ Moore's gonna be the contrarian guy, but he's still actually up there in ownership. He's at like 5 or 10%. So it's not like he's like not owned, but he's like 15 last time I saw.
Yeah.
Let me check it out real quick. So DJ Moore shot up. He's at 8% owned, and Robbie Anderson is at 12.6.
Gotcha.
So, the thing is, what I'm looking at with Mike Davis and what I'm kind of hoping for is like the Packers last week destroyed the Falcons, right? Destroyed them. But what happened was the secondary fell apart. And Deion Jones, who's normally contains the running back in the passing game, they dropped him into coverage a large portion of that game because their secondary was so beat up. Yeah. So when he got dropped into coverage, like deeper coverage to kind of help out up against Tanyan and a lot of these other guys that were crossing the middle, it took him off the running back. And when he came off the running back, these running backs were just getting easy yards time and time again. Yeah. So
you saw a lot of Jamal Williams in that game. So
dude, a ton of it. So with Deion
Jones owner.
Huh?
Made me mad as an Aaron Jones owner.
I know, right? But that always happens. That happens like, once a year. Or I'm sorry, like 5 times a year. So, but the thing is Jones, the secondary is healthy overall. They're getting AJ Terrell back from the COVID list. So Deion Jones could go back to shadowing the running back like he did before, and it could limit Davis's upside. Now, I'm not saying that Davis is a bad play by any stretch of imagination, but, if he gets, maybe, I don't know, 80 yards on 6 receptions and 40 yards rushing and a touchdown, but he's chalk. I almost consider that a win if you can hit big on something else. But I think he could be limited even further than that, like to, maybe 4 catches for 20 yards and 40 yards rushing. And I think that could be like his essential floor, which Deion Jones could hold him to.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I don't know that I expect the Carolina to get up that high on him. I don't expect that to happen. Against Atlanta. They certainly could. They've got, that offense is clicking a lot better than it did last season. A lot better. It's like 14th right now overall by DVOA. So that is, they're working, they're doing stuff. And all that Atlanta has seen leading up to this, they're playing good offenses with the exception of Chicago. They've played Seattle, they've played Dallas, and they've played Green Bay. And so, those teams are going to put up points on them. They're going to put up a lot of points on them. So I think Carolina can do it too. Can they get way up? Let me see. Seattle's defense isn't that good. Got way up on them before they started coming back. So could happen.
Let's hop over the other side of this ball, right? Okay. Because like the Panthers, right? They've actually been really good. Like you brought up earlier, they've been really good up against the wide receiver, right? And the quarterback. They shut down Hopkins. They kind of allowed big games to Evans and Keenan Allen, but overall they've been pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I might take a shot with Ridley to run it back just in case the Panthers do go up. Obviously with Julio Jones questionable. What's up?
What's Ridley's status as of now?
Ridley's still questionable as well, but he played last week on that ankle, and I don't think it got any worse. Meanwhile, Julio Jones actually got pulled out of the game because it did get worse, and I don't know if they're going to take another risk because it could hold Julio Jones back another week again.
Yeah, he's still not. I don't think he plays this week. I really don't.
I don't
think
either.
Julio plays. So why do you go Ridley, or would you rather go Gage? Gage is probably going to be chalkier.
So I like Ridley, but I'm actually thinking I'm going to focus on Gurley here. The Panthers have allowed 8 touchdowns to the running back and 37 receptions. We know in DFS how important those receptions are for the running back, right? That's why Mike Davis is who he is right now. But I know that Brian Hill's vulturing some third down snaps. Gurley has 5 touches on third down so far this year, but I think that could change this week. Both Tahir Whitehead and Shaq Thompson are being asked to cover the running back out of the backfield, and they have failed to be efficient with that. I think that Gurley could see a ton of snaps. And in addition, Jeremy Chin, who's the rookie over there in Carolina, has been a beast up against the tight end. So the tight ends are getting shut down too. Gurley might be the only option in the passing game.
Yeah. Well, and I told you earlier, I really like Gurley in this game a lot. They're using him. People were worried about Gurley coming into the season. Oh, he's done. He's toast. He's not. No, they're using him. He had 16 carries last week, 1 reception, 14 carries the week before that, 1 reception, 21 carries the week before that at Dallas. So they're running him, but they do target. You just can't expect a lot of him out of the pass game. When you look at the passing target breakdown, it is way wide receiver heavy. 112 to the wide receiver, 24 to the tight end, and 29 to the running back position. And that's pretty much been a mix of Gurley, of Hill, and of Ito Smith. But when it comes to the red zone, and you're looking at it, Gurley has 19 looks in the red zone compared to Ridley. Ridley's the closest to him at 9. So he's going to have at least a touchdown this week.
High touch premium.
Yeah.
Target premium. I love Gurley. I don't think we need to talk too much more about it. Is Brian Hill an option though? Because Brian Hill's getting looks, and although last week I believe Ito Smith had 16 touches or 16 snaps, and so did Brian Hill. Every other week before that, we've seen Brian Hill dominate the snaps.
Yeah, dominate the backup snaps. Yeah. Last week it was 5 touches for Smith, 6 for Hill. So the week before that, 10 for Hill, 0 for Smith. The week before that, 5 for Hill, 5 for Smith. So it's to me, there's just not enough in either of them to make them interesting to me. They also, of the 2 of them, Hill has 1 touchdown on the year, and that's it. So you'd really be targeting maybe a touchdown dart on either of those guys. So, but you're talking about with Hill at 4,000.
That's as low as you can go with the running back.
It is, but I think I'd go somewhere else. I think I'd much rather see, like I said, Chase Edmonds wasn't he
45 or something?
4,700. I'd much rather go Chase Edmonds at 4,700. Definitely going to be a little chalkier. Definitely going to have some more people on him than on Brian Hill, but he's definitely not going to goose egg for you.
Well, Brian Hill is just getting the targets, and he's not getting a ton of targets. He's getting 2, 2, 3, and 2. So it's not like a ton of targets, but in a game where your receivers are hurt, they're really super banged up. You can't pass the tight end because Jeremy Chin has been shutting shit down over there. You're talking about, potentially seeing 5, maybe 6 targets to Brian Hill. If not, they got to go to Gurley. So you're playing Gurley, but if you believe that Gurley won't be involved in the passing game, then I think Brian Hill, you have to think that he might get the targets.
Yeah, but look at the red zone, right? I don't think he's going to get a lot of targets still. The receivers were banged up last week. Yeah, Julio was still in there. Really have to find out if Ridley's going to be in there, if Julio's going to be in there. Russell Gage is still there, and Russell Gage and Hayden Hurst, even though they might not be, a touchdown option, although Jordan Thomas did get a touchdown last week. And, they are allowing, let me see, there's 5 last week, 5 to Hunter Henry receptions the week before that. OJ Howard only had one with Tampa Bay in week 2, but they generally weren't targeting the tight end at that point that much. And Darren Waller had 6 receptions. So I think I would trust Hunter Henry more than Brian Hill.
Okay. I can take that. I could definitely see that 100%.
Just because when you look at, the tight ends at the moment for Atlanta, not getting a lot of red zone looks. Again, I told you Gurley's getting 19, Ridley 9, Gage 8. Those are your red zone looks. That's where they're going. So again, I think I'd err on the side of Gage or Hunter Henry as opposed to Hill.
Now, we had one game that I didn't type down. And it's just because of the fact that I feel like every other DFS show is just, hooting and hollering about it. And, I don't know if it can get as high scoring as we're hoping it will get. So I'm kind of hoping it'll bust and everybody will be off it. But the Cowboys and the Giants.
Yeah.
It's something where, Slayton is definitely an option. Jones is an option. Prescott's an option. Mark Cooper, Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, Ezekiel Elliott, like Evan Ingram. Like, you have options everywhere. But I kind of want to stay away from this game because I just think it's going to be a lot of chalk. Like, it's not showing up as huge chalk outside of Ezekiel Elliott so far, I think. But you have like Amari Cooper at 10%, CeeDee Lamb. But I feel like all these guys are playable, but there's nothing really more to say about it because that they're playable.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's the game that a lot of people are going to target. Zeke is always going to be chalky, always. But again, when we're talking about running backs in this slate, there's a lot of good options. So maybe he's not going to be quite as chalky as we think he is. What did you say? What the ownership is on him yet?
Yeah, I didn't say what it was. He's the third highest owned. He's at 47.9%.
Okay. But, and when we look at the Cowboys, the Giants defense has actually been pretty good in terms of the amount of fantasy points that they're letting up. The QB position, they're fourth in the league, 17 fantasy points per game. The running back position, 25. So that does speak well to Zeke and what he can do. He's got 31 targets on the season, which is more than a lot of wide receivers. So, they're throwing the ball a lot, these Cowboys, and they have to. And when you're going up against the Giants, they are the 11th ranked defense by DVOA. So they're doing pretty good. It's their offense that stinks.
Yeah. The thing is, other teams don't need to score much up against them because Daniel Jones is turning the ball over.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
the Cowboys defense is not forcing many turnovers either, to be fair.
We are going to, I guess, dive a little bit more into that here in a second, but there was only one other game that I really liked that I wanted to invest in heavily. And maybe you can enlighten me on another one.
Okay.
But the Bengals and Ravens. Okay. So Lamar, right, he had a scare earlier in the week, but he's good to go. So we don't need to worry about him. Harbaugh came out and said that he's healthy. The running backs, though, are killing the Bengals, killing them. Mm-hmm. I'm looking back to the Eagles matchup where Wentz actually went, got 9 rushing attempts for 65 yards and a touchdown. So, they're also allowing that to the quarterbacks as well. Is Jackson actually a play for you here? Like, how do you feel about Jackson?
I feel like Jackson's a little off right now. He's just a little off, which means he's due for a bounce back, right? And so why not against Cincinnati? But Cincinnati, again, has been playing much better than we expected. Again, this is another defense that we targeted a lot last season and just have been showing up pretty well. So when you look at what the quarterbacks have been doing, Baker had a good game against them in week 2, 2 touchdowns. Not a great game, though, 219 passing yards. Carson Wentz, I'm not even going to talk about Carson Wentz because he's doing terrible. He's off. Talk about somebody that's off. But Gardner Minshew had a great 350 yards from Minshew with 2 touchdowns and an interception. So you can score here. Carson Wentz, I was just giving him crap, and he hasn't been playing awesome, but he did have 65 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown.
That's what I'm saying. They allow yards and whatnot, rushing attempts. So
could be pretty good. I mean, and again, we saw what Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt did to them in week 2, just kind of really had monster days themselves. I think I was up against both of them in one league where I had my opponent played both of them.
And he is not chalk, by the way. He's actually owned in less than 4.2%. Yep.
Yeah, because you know what? His fantasy point wise, he hasn't been scoring that well. What is he at 17? Where was he? I was trying to remember where he's at fantasy point wise.
I have him at 21.6, but that's
21.6. But that's not Lamar.
Like 10th. No, that's like 10. That's lower than that. It's outside the top 10.
Yeah. He's way down. Let's put it this way. Ryan Fitzpatrick is scoring more than he is. Joe Burrow is scoring more than he is. I mean, the other people, Cam Newton, Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, those people, okay, you get that. But Fitzpatrick and Burrow are scoring more fantasy points per game than Lamar Jackson. And Minshew's right there.
Yeah, it's actually 8th, but Minshew's like right there with him. And then Ben Roethlisberger's right there with him too. Yep. So he's barely inside the top 10.
Yeah, and still his salary is still the most on the slate, which is probably why there's not a lot of people on him, right?
Yeah, there's nobody on him, but this could be that game, that get-right game. I mean, I'm pretty sure he destroys the Bengals every time they play. I know it's a slightly different defense, but...
Yeah, I don't think I'm worried about Lamar, and I think he could be, like you said, he might be a really interesting play. But let's look at what he did last year versus Cincinnati. 236, 0-0 in the air, but 152 and 1 on the ground.
152?
I think it was 223 and 3 in the air and 65 and 1 on the ground. So I think you can expect that you're probably going to get a rushing touchdown out of Lamar Jackson this week.
I like it. Now, I know the Bengals have been pretty solid up against wide receiver, but I really, really like, wait for it.
I'm waiting for it.
Miles Boykin, not Marquise Brown. I do like Marquise Brown, by the way, if you want a tournament type winner, but I actually am gravitating more towards Miles Boykin and having a breakout game this week. Mark Andrews got a little bit of an injury scare today. I think he's all right, but he didn't, or yesterday, maybe it was Tuesday, but either way, he didn't practice yesterday, was limited today. That's got me a little bit nervous. And then we have Boykin, who's going to line up either against Mackenzie Alexander if he plays, or LaShawn Sims if he doesn't. Now, either one are an amazing matchup, but Sims in particular, since it's more likely that Mackenzie sits, has given up 149 yards and a touchdown in 5 quarters of football. That's it.
Okay.
That's it. So you're looking at a guy that is just feeding yards to these receivers. And that's the same side of the ball, or the same side of the field that Boykin plays on. So I really like Miles Boykin, especially with Boyle being limited practice as well. How are you feeling about this?
He's 4K. I don't hate it. I think I'd go down to DuVernay at 3K though. Again, here's the problem with that, because when you're looking at those, you're not looking at targets and you're not looking at receptions, because they're just not getting that much. They're going to be, I think, like you said, we're going to see a lot of run gain here from Baltimore, between Lamar and his running backs, his 87 running backs that he has, that they're working with. But when you look at the red zone, Lamar has 24 touches, not targets, obviously, in the red zone. The next closest, Mark Ingram with 8. So, and then of course Lamar's is both rushing and passing, but with Ingram with 8, Andrews with 6, that's the most, and so Lamar is, I think I'd go a little bit cheaper if I'm going to, because Boykin I don't have the target share in front of me right now. And I know that DuVernay is he is what I like to call not hit or miss. He's what's the word I'm looking
for?
Volatile? No, not even volatile. He's cute. He's interesting. He's got inconsistent. Nope, that's not it either.
What's up?
Oh, he's not novel. Novel is the word that he's novel, right? He's new. He's interesting. People like, what they saw out of him. He's running the ball back, and he has a touchdown on the season.
He does,
which is more than we can say about Boykin. So I think that if I'm going to dart throw somebody here, I'm going to dart throw DuVernay.
My thought process is just more of the matchup and also the snaps. So Miles Boykin only has 3 snaps less than Marquise Brown on the season, and he's actually out-snapped him weeks 1 through 3. He just fell off up against Washington because it wasn't a good matchup, and because they did want to mix in a little bit more Snead underneath, because those cornerbacks on the outside for Washington are actually surprisingly very good. So they took Miles Boykin out and played a little bit more Willie Snead underneath. But the thing with Devin Duvernay is he hasn't seen more than 16 snaps. And he also lines up on the right just as much as he lines up on the left. And when you can try and take advantage of a matchup with Sims, Boykin has all the physical traits to be an alpha wide receiver. He just hasn't done it yet. And whether that's on him or Lamar, I'm unsure of. But I do know that with Mark Andrews potentially being out, we don't know yet, and also Boyle potentially being out, we don't know yet. Miles Boykin could be the red zone target. He could be the guy to go to in the red zone. Yeah. So if he can get those targets,
process, I like it. I appreciate it.
It's a process. It's not proven, but it's a process in order to find it. It's the right process.
Is it really working hard to make Boykin work? But he's cheap, right? He's cheap, and so it could be a brilliant play. No doubt about it. And these are the things that you have to find in DFS. These are the things that these little nuggets are what you have to find in DFS. But to be honest, is this the game where you're going to look for that nugget? Is the Baltimore pass game where you're going to try to find your nugget?
I just think that nobody's going to be on it. So that's why I like that nugget. And I came up with the same sort of thing for Andy Isabella. I took the right process in order to get there. And normally when you take dart throws like this, it doesn't work out. If it worked out, we'd be taking dart throws for every position. Yeah. But these type of dart throws can absolutely work. And up against this defense, who, like I said, has been good up against the wide receivers. So people aren't going to see, this bright, shining, obvious thing to go with. He could actually be the right guy. But like you said, they're probably going to be running, right? That's what they're going to do. And we all know that. So which running back are you going to go with?
I mean, you killed the Andy Isabella call. What was that, last week, the week before?
I think it was 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you nailed it. Like you were talking about Andy Isabella, and I was like, really? Because I sit here in Arizona going, they're just not using him. And there he was, 2 touchdowns. Way to go, Chase. Nice job. Props to Chase. So you were saying which running back would I target on the Ravens? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah. Which running back would you go after on the Ravens if you are going to play this running game? Because it's all over the place. The snap counts and everything are just all over the place.
Yeah. You've got Mark Ingram is the most expensive at 5,400, but he does get the most red zone looks too. And
he also had the least amount of snaps last week too.
Yeah, but I mean, he had the least amount of snaps last week. What about the week before that? What about the week before that?
He probably led the previous 3. We just don't know which one to go with.
So it is, and so that's usually a situation where I kind of stay away from it because, quite honestly, I don't think that they're going to be scoring. If they're scoring on the ground, it's going to be Lamar. We just talked about, the Lamar's history against this, against the Cincinnati Bengals, right? He's had a rushing touchdown in each of those. The Bengals are giving up touchdowns. They didn't give up any last week to James Robinson, my boy, J-Rob. They didn't give up any the week before that to Philly. But then they gave up 3 the week before that to Cleveland. So
4, including the reception.
Yeah, but I'm talking about on the ground. Because I think, other than, I mean, we're going to see, like you said, if the tight ends are not there and available for Lamar Jackson, are we going to see more of a pass game with the running backs involved? Because we haven't seen it.
Yeah.
You know, last week, 2 receptions amongst the running backs. The week before that, 4, but it was all to Dobbins. So I think if I'm going anybody here, I have to go Dobbins because he is the only one that has had more than 2 receptions. Ingram's not getting the receptions. He's had 2 weeks with 0 receptions, and then he had 2 in week 2. So, and Edwards is getting 0 receptions. Edwards is not being targeted in the pass game at all. So I guess if I'm looking at anybody, I'm looking at Dobbins.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I mean, I might go Ingram to be contrarian. You know how we were talking about playing a contrarian play? I think Ingram, his ownership's going to be non-existent almost. And Gus is a okay dart throw. But I probably am staying away from all 3 of these running backs in 99.9% of my lineups.
Yeah, I could see, I mean, we could see Lamar have all of the rushing touchdowns, right?
He could have 3. He could have 3 this game.
Exactly.
Really good.
Exactly. So, hey, you know what? That paying up for Lamar we might be talking ourselves into that.
I like it. I really do. I like it. All right. So I don't really love anybody on the Bengals side of things to run it back. You know, normally we talk about somebody on the side that we go with, but like there's so many wide receivers. Their snap counts are so all over the place. The only one that's getting consistent snaps is AJ Green, who's not producing, and Tyler Boyd, who might have a limited upside in this Baltimore game. I mean, if I have to run it back, I might run it back with Boyd, but Mixon's upside is limited. I just don't like it. Anybody that you like playing in this matchup?
Yeah, it's, Boyd has been getting the targets, right? I mean, everybody's all about Higgins because, again, he's the new shiny penny. So everybody likes Higgins a lot. But when you look at the breakdown, I mean, Boyd is getting more receptions on a weekly basis than Higgins is. Higgins is playing more. Who's playing more in the slot?
Boyd is crushing the slot snaps.
Boyd is playing more in the slot. And when you look at Baltimore and what they're giving up, let me see here. And I'm looking at targets too. The targets here are very wide receiver heavy. 112 targets to the wide receiver, 16 to tight end. Mixon's had 15, but 8 of those came last week. So I think that it's Boyd that I would come back with because we have seen, I mean, Terry McLaurin, who went 10 for 118. They gave up 2 passing touchdowns to KC in week 3. So that was Tyreek. Tyreek in the slot, or I mean, he plays mostly in the slot.
Yeah,
so,
and Mecole Hardman plays a lot in the slot too, who they gave up 81 and a touchdown.
81 and a touchdown. Tyreek had 77 and a touchdown. Randall Cobb didn't do a whole heck of a lot. He did have 5 receptions for 59 yards. So I think that for me, I would go Boyd. Of course, he's probably going to be the most popular of those 2, right?
So in other words, play the Ravens defense because you're going to get opportunity, for interceptions.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a rookie QB, although Burrow's been playing well, but it's still a rookie QB, so you do like to target those guys. He's only has 2 interceptions on the season, but when he played the Chargers, which is a pretty good defense in week 1, of course, it was his first game of his NFL career. 193, 0 touchdowns. 0 passing touchdowns, 1 interception, but he did have a touchdown on the ground. So I don't hate the Baltimore defense call at all. I think it could be.
He's actually thrown 5 interceptable passes as well. So
5 interceptable passes. Okay.
Yeah, and then 5 dangerous plays, which accounts for a player that lacks awareness or took an unnecessary risk. That they could have resulted in a turnover. So, for example, spends so much time in the pocket, right? Or does something along those lines where it could have led to a turnover, but it did not.
Yeah. But I think I guess my answer in this game is I probably wouldn't target this game as something I'm going to have a lot of ownership in. If I want a Lamar, that's probably all I'm looking at.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to highlight Boykin. I think that's the only reason why I brought this.
You know what? You got your boy in there, Boykin. But so we do need to make some bets, because if it's my Devernay guy who gets in there, then I win.
Oh God. Okay. Yeah. We need to do something. We need to line something up with these bets. All right. So I was sitting there looking through it, and normally I can find like 2 or 3 games where I like a running back stack along with a defense stack, right? Like that's one of my favorite things to play, because typically when you have a team up, they're going to run a lot more often, and the defense, the other team's going to have to pass. So the defense can get a lot of interceptions, and it's something that I gravitate towards constantly. But this week, I really couldn't find anything outside of Dallas up against the Giants.
What about Indy and Cleveland?
So Indy and Cleveland, I don't know which side you think can go up, because honestly, both these defenses are really good. And I think it's going to be very, very low scoring compared to what we've seen previously from these two teams from week to week.
I hear you. There is that. But when you look at the Indy defense is really, really good against the QB, against the RB, against the tight end. They're a little bit softer against the wide receiver. But, can you trust the Cleveland pass game? Not really. Indy's got the number 1 defense by DVOA. So I think I'd take their defense and maybe JT.
You just made me so happy, by the way, because I didn't realize that. And I wrote an article in the offseason about how the Colts were the defense to own this year. Yeah. And especially in Dynasty, where you can have them year after year after year. You just made me so happy. It just made me so happy. Like I lit up like a Christmas tree. That was my number 1, probably, bold take of the year, because the Colts defense was, so bad, with their injuries and whatnot over the previous years. But anyway, I don't love the game. Like I don't love this stack. I mean, I think there's defenses you can play without a running back. And I think that there's certain games where you could look forward to it, but it's like, do I really like the running back and the defense stack?
That's fair. Well, it's the whole point. I mean, it's still, if you're thinking of something that's not going to be a very high scoring game, because that's what you're targeting, right? When you have a running back and a defense stack. I mean, Cleveland, are they giving up points to the opposing defenses? Now let's take Dallas out of consideration when that game where they were able to score that many points, almost 50. That's insane, the amount of points they were able to score. So, but week 1 against a really good defense in Baltimore, Cleveland only scored 6 points.
Yeah, but I think for tournaments, you're looking for that interception, type upside where you're going to have the other team, passing, 45 times. Like you want that upside of a pick 6. And it's like, obviously Daniel Jones gives you that on a sack, fumble, return for a touchdown. Yeah. But I mean, Baker Mayfield's only thrown 3 interceptable passes so far this year. Okay. He's not a guy he's actually very safe with the ball, because Stefanski's limiting, his reads. He's limiting what he can actually do with the ball. So although they might not be scoring a ton of points, they're also not turning the ball over. And I want turnovers, baby. I want that 15-point finish from a defense.
Well, then why not target the AZ defense?
They're playing the Jets.
Flacco and the Jets. The Jets are, obviously it's Flacco this week instead of Sam Darnold, but I like it. Flacco's known for not being awesome. So and then you've got, you could get really contrarian and go Chase instead of Drake.
That's what I actually like. I like that stack. As soon as you said that, that's exactly where my mind went.
You're welcome.
You just sparked it again. You just sparked my mind. So Bo brought up on here Steelers and Connor. And although I love the Steelers defense this week, I'm not that high on Connor. I've watched the Philadelphia Eagles play a few games. I've gotten to rewatch their stuff. And that that Eagles defense is tough to run against up the middle. You can pass on it to an extent to the running back, but trying to, run up the middle against them, it just doesn't happen.
What about the tight end and the Steelers D? What about Zach Ertz?
Wait, in the Steelers D? So you're gonna, I mean, yeah, you can counter each other. I like that one, but I was just looking for a running back.
Yeah,
Steelers.
I know it's different, right? It's a different type of stack going with the
I like that though. I mean, I think that Ertz is going to crush it for sure. It makes me a little bit nervous though anytime that you have that, but I don't think the Eagles are going to score, so I kind of like that take. And when they do score, it's either going to be through Miles Sanders or Zach Ertz, most likely Zach Ertz though.
Yeah. So it could be we got some options here. We got some options.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next thing, and that's the sneaky good plays of the week. Maybe the price is too high, right? So it's dropping ownership down, or maybe a player like Brandon Cooks, had a recent dud. Calvin Ridley's another example, so it might drive ownership down. I have Jacobs versus Kansas City at 6,300. What do you think about Josh Jacobs this week? Teams or players are going to be afraid to play him because, they might be down, they might be losing, but Jacobs actually been involved in the passing game. Meanwhile, his ownership isn't even on the board. Yeah. So do you like Josh Jacobs this week? Actually, his ownership jumped up to 6.3% recently, but I still think that's low.
I saw him in there earlier. I love Josh Jacobs and so does, we know that Gruden loves Josh Jacobs as well. So that to me, that's always a reason to play somebody. He's touching the ball a lot. So, I mean, it definitely has fallen off the past couple of games. We saw that first breakout game from him, and then everybody forgot about him because he's kind of been quiet.
Yeah. Say that again.
Quiet. Yeah, but they are getting him more involved in the pass game. But you know what? They're throwing the ball a little bit more too. We're seeing good games out of Renfro. We're seeing good games out of freaking Nelson Aguilar. So, there's some good stuff that's happening there. Like I said, the Las Vegas offense is sneaky good. They're 10th by DVOA. They're doing good things. It's their defense that's really bad. So, and they're gonna have to throw the ball a lot. The only reason that I'm worried about Jacobs is because they are gonna have to throw the ball a lot. They have to keep up with KC, and KC is gonna score a lot of points. So, Jacobs, what's his price point at? That's going to be the difference. Let me see, what do they have him at here?
6,300.
6,300.
I like him at that price. I think he's a smash play. Kansas City gives up points to the running back, and they want to keep Kansas City's offense off the field. I think Josh Jacobs is a smash play. Yeah.
I mean, he's getting the touches, and so that's really all that matters there. It's at 6,300. I do worry about him though. I do.
It's nothing to worry about. Now, Bo did point out, by the way, Ruggs.
He's not had a touchdown since week 1, which means it's time.
Fine. It's time. The ownership's off. He's been sleeping. It's that time. No, but Ruggs is actually in this game, and I do love Ruggs, to be honest with you. Nelson Aguilar has been good in this role.
At practice, that doesn't mean he's in the game, though, right? Has he been?
I think the questionable tag got torn off him from what I saw.
Did it? Okay. All right.
I think.
Injuries, they change so quickly this season that let me see. I'm looking at the latest injury report. Hold, please. And I'll see what they say. But yeah, I hope that Ruggs is back. I'd love to see him, not for my Darren Waller shares, just because you think when he's on the field, they like to attack him. So, and I love what I see out of him. So Bryan Edwards is out. It's still questionable. Ruggs is still questionable. Yeah. So, but he could be a real sneaky play too. If they don't call him in until closer to game time, he could be a real sneaky one to get in there. What's his price point at?
Sorry, I didn't mean to pull that up yet. For Ruggs?
Yeah.
I didn't catch that one.
Yeah, I'll look at it.
All right, cool.
So let me see here. 4,700. 4,700. Casey's been tough against the wide receiver. they're first against the wide receiver, but they're not unbeatable. You know, Fuller had 112 yards. They've only given up 2 passing touchdowns this season so far, but one to N'Keal Harry, which really speaks to Ruggs's, upside there, and then one to Jalen Guyton,
the speedster. That's why I like Ruggs. That's why I like Ruggs. They can beat him with speed.
Ruggs. So Ruggs, if Ruggs plays, I think he might be a real sneaky guy to get in there, because when we saw him when he was in the game week 1 with Derek Carr was peppering him with targets.
Oh God, he was 4 for 55 or something like that before he got hurt. Three. Okay.
And that didn't he get hurt like in the first quarter or something?
The second quarter, and then the next play after he got hurt, Nelson Aguilar came in for him.
Yeah.
Played his exact role and caught a touchdown pass for 25 yards or like 30 yards.
No, it was Jones. Jones did.
No, it was Aguilar. It was Aguilar on the outside. It was almost like a fade route.
23. Yep. It was one for 23 yards. Yep.
Yeah, I was off by 2 yards.
Yeah.
All right, so I got another guy that's kind of hiding in plain sight. Okay. And I understand like he's might be slightly owned, but Juju Smith-Schuster up against Philly for 6,500. We talk about Darius Slay being a shutdown corner, but he could be on. He's actually projected to be up against Deontay Johnson. Slay back? Only. What's up?
Who's back?
What do you mean? Who's back?
Well, why am I thinking he was out?
He might have been. Is he out?
Because everybody was out last week.
Well, Slay only travels to the slot on 11.1% of the snaps.
Yeah.
And that's where Juju Smith-Schuster lives. So I love Juju Smith-Schuster this week.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, I love Juju. He's just not getting quite as involved. We're seeing a lot of Deontay Johnson and not quite as much Juju as I like. I mean, he had 7 receptions week 2 against Denver and 6 in week 1 against the Giants. But yeah, I can never be down on Juju, and his price point has to be pretty low this week because, number one, people have forgotten about him, and people have forgotten how good he is when he's back in the. Are they playing him back in the slot more? Do you know?
Yes, he is. He's playing a lot more in the slot.
Yeah.
Let me see. It's loading up as we speak, but I mean, he's been the slot guy. So out of 172 snaps, 132 of them have been out of the slot.
Okay.
So that's only 40 other snaps that have been not in the slot. Okay. He is the slot guy. Nobody else has more than 39 snaps in the slot. Oh, I'm sorry. Chase Claypool has 46.
Okay. All right. So he's a slot guy. The thing that I worry about is we're seeing a little bit more Ebron in the world too. Within that Pittsburgh Steelers world, we're seeing a little bit more Ebron, and Ebron's getting a lot of the red zone looks as well. So, and then last week he had 7 targets, and we all know that Philly is trash against the tight end position. So the only thing that worries me about like touchdown upside, which is really what I'm looking for here, is that it may be Ebron that gets the touchdowns instead of Juju. What do you think?
I just think that Ebron's like just so damn sketch. I mean, we talk about the targets. I think he had Juju Smith-Schuster had like 6, 8, and 5 targets if I remember correctly in the 3 weeks they played. Meanwhile, Ebron did see 7 last week, but he's only seen 5 and 2 in the other weeks. And Deontay Johnson's seen him, but he has to face up against Darius Slay this week. So I just don't. Yeah. I don't like that.
But
I'm not a big fan.
More and more each week, he's getting more targets. So that you're looking at the progression, going, all right, there's some synergy there. And then when you look at the fact that the Eagles have actually been really good against wide receivers, touchdown wise. I mean, they've only let up 2 touchdowns, and both of those were to T. Higgins.
Well,
so those LA Rams, none of the Rams were able to score on him. Terry McLaurin was not able to score on him. None of the San Francisco 49ers were able to score on him, but they've given up 5 touchdowns to the tight end position.
So I always had a rule for myself.
Okay.
Whenever Nicky Roby Coleman is ever in the game, Nickel Roby-Coleman, I think,
Yeah.
is ever in the game and he's playing in the slot, that's where you attack. Because like he's actually really good rated overall, but he's rated that well overall because everybody attacks him constantly. And so they have to give safety help some of the time because he's so bad. And he's completely overrated as a cornerback. He's one of the most overrated cornerbacks there is. Now, you know, with Devontae Maddox out, he might end up sliding to the outside. But either way, there's certain slot corners that I look at. And if there's a supreme guy that will slide to the slot, like, you know, we saw Hopkins do last year, you know, like we're seeing, you know, Juju Smith-Schuster do, like we see Devontae Adams do. If there's a supreme athlete that is going to be facing this guy in the slot, I am playing that guy no matter what. Like I'm getting him in most of my lineups. And Nickel Roby-Coleman is that guy for me. So I'm playing Juju Smith-Schuster.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, Tyler Boyd was able to get 10 receptions for 125 yards. You know, so he scored well. He didn't score, but he still was able to get some receptions and a lot of yards. And Cooper Kupp, you know, in the slot, 5 for 81. Steven Sims, 3 for 50.
And he sucks.
Yeah. And then Debo, 3 for 35. But, you know, when I'm looking at...
It was Ayuk that was in the slot last week. Debo did get his snaps in the slot. But Ayuk was the main guy, I believe, in the slot.
18 in the slot. But he had 2 for 18. 2 for 18. He did have a 38-yard run for a touchdown. So that's where his fantasy points came from last week. But he only had 2 receptions, 5 targets, 2 receptions for 18. But
that quarterback play was terrible.
Different quarterbacks, yeah. So there's that. But, you know, and I understand you're saying, so Nickel Roby-Coleman, 8% targets per route is what he's at right now. He's getting 8% targets per route in coverage. So it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, and you're looking at a team that's spread it around, by the way. I mean, when we look at the wide receivers and the targets from Jared Goff, he spread it around the whole entire offense. I mean, there were 5 receivers that were getting looks. For the Bengals, it was the same thing. It was T. Higgins, Boyd, AJ Green, Auden Tate, Mike Thomas. They all got targets. So when you have a guy that could get all the targets, especially with Slay back in the lineup, I think that it's going to be cooking time. It's going to be cooking time for Juju Smith-Schuster.
All right, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Hey, I'd like to see him go for 10 for 125.
Yeah.
So
that'd be fun. That would be fun.
He doesn't even have to score. You know, he can score.
That'd be nice. That'd be really nice.
But, you know, is 6,700. Look at the guys around him. You've got Julio. You've got Tyreek. You've got Will Fuller. You've got Cooper Kupp. Nobody having a really great kind of matchup. But, you know, Juju's 17.7 fantasy points per game so far this season. So he's quietly doing all right.
Yeah, he's doing pretty all right for sure. All right, so another guy that I'm having a ton of my lineups is Darius Slayton at 4,800. They're up against Cowboys. We're assuming the Cowboys are going to be up. They're going to have to pass. The secondary's not good.
Yeah.
I like Darius Slayton a lot. I don't want to play a lot of this matchup just because I think it's going to be, you know, just a little bit overplayed. Yeah.
Say, don't you think he's gonna be pretty chalky?
I do think that he's going to be chalky, but that's why I don't want to stack him with anybody in this. I just want to get him in my lineups.
Just have the points in there. Okay.
Just have the points. I mean, yeah, he's at 37.9% ownership. And the thing is at 4,800, you know, a chalk option like that isn't going to, I guess, necessarily break my lineup.
Yeah.
But it could make my lineup. So when you look at a chalk option like Ezekiel Elliott, that could break your lineup. Like that, if he doesn't go off, then you're broken.
Yeah.
You're fucked. With 4,800, that's not going to break your lineup. So that's kind of why I like Darius Slayton.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. You know, when you're looking at the perimeter for the Cowboys and the perimeter receivers give up the second most fantasy points. They're tougher in the slot, 31st. They're second toughest versus the slot. So that takes Tate out of your consideration there. So I think that Slayton absolutely could be your guy. You know, they held Cooper Kupp to 4 for 40, Russell Gage for 6 for 46 plus a touchdown. And meanwhile, Ridley went off for 7 and 109 and 2 touchdowns.
On the outside.
Yeah, but Tyler Lockett, who plays mostly in the slot, 9 receptions for 100 yards, 3 touchdowns.
I think on 2 of those touchdowns, they came from the outside. I want to say, I don't remember exactly, but I think he lined up on the right outside for 2 of those touchdowns. One was a crossing route that he ran, caught in the middle, and actually the safety got credited with the coverage in that situation.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think he came out of the slot, though, for 2 of those touchdowns.
Yeah. I mean, $4,800 for Darius Slayton, $4,600 for Golden Tate. And when you look at the breakdown of what the Cowboys, I mean, Odell Beckham had 2 touchdowns, one of them thrown to him by Jarvis Landry. So, but Jarvis Landry in the slot only had 5 for 48.
Yeah, I'm not touching the slot. I think Darius Slayton is the play for the Giants side.
Yeah, Golden Tate is the slot guy there, and so Darius Slayton, I think it's a really good play at that price point. Have you seen what the ownership is like on him?
Yeah, for Slayton, it's at like 37% or 47%.
You don't mind doing that. What about I mean, that's. I don't think you want to go any lower than that. I don't think you want to go to a guy like Ratley, right? So
yeah, I'm not doing any of that mess. Plus, I mean,
because you can have Slayton for 1,600 for. I mean, I think if you're trying to fit somebody into your lineup, and you need to fill a spot and you don't have a lot of money, it's not a bad choice to go with, or CJ Board, but.
Yeah, I mean, the rookie over there is the rookie's going to be lining up on the same side, and he's allowing 266 yards so far this season while in man coverage. So that it's not going to be good. And then Jordan Lewis, if he ends up going the other side, it's not much better. He's allowed 2 touchdowns so far. The safeties are both getting crushed. The safeties are brutal over there. I think that Slayton has some big time upside. And like I said, with 4,800, if he gives you 4 for 50 yards, it's not going to kill you because it's 4,800.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love that play. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a great sneaky play. I think that's your winner right there this week, Chase. That's the one you're going to be doing the victory dance to.
I think it's a winner with 37.8% of other people too. So, all right. So my 2 favorites this week when it comes to this reign is Mo Alley Cox up against Cleveland, who's been terrible up against tight end, and Drew Sample up against Baltimore. Bo mentioned it earlier. I love Drew Sample up against Baltimore.
Yep.
I didn't have it as a stack necessarily because I kind of want to play it independently. I don't want to play Joe Burrow. Meanwhile, Mo Alley Cox is a smash play, and he's actually not chalky. I don't really know how because he's pretty cheap overall.
I can't get on the Cox train. I just can't. It's because.
Oh, that was amazing. That was amazing. I can't get up. God, is that the show name now? The Cox train.
Not doing it. I'm off the Cox. Yeah, I know he's one of those names that you hear a lot about and people are really high on him, and I get it. I understand it. And Cleveland is bad against the tight end position, but Indy's just, I don't think that they're targeting. When you look at the target breakdown, 68 to the wide receiver, 24 to the tight end, 32 to the running back. They are targeting their running backs more than they are their tight ends. And when it comes to the red zone, it's all running back. It's all JT and Nyheim Hines. So could you maybe I like the Drew Sample call a lot better than the Mo Alley Cox call. The Ravens, they've given up 2 touchdowns to the because that's what you're going for here. With Cox, you are looking for the touchdown upside, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you're looking for the touchdown upside, and he's had a touchdown in the past 2 games, and that's what. And then you're looking at that game in week 2 where he had 5 for 111 yards against Minnesota, but I don't see it happening in these because, again, the Ravens have only given up 2 touchdowns the first 4 weeks to the tight end position. I'm just not seeing it. Of course, they've only given up two touchdowns to the wide receiver position too. So it's been pretty good. And 2 touchdowns to the running back position too. So,
really?
so, I mean, there is all of that, but I think that I definitely prefer the Drew Sample. And I'm a little butthurt at Drew Sample because he did let me down a few weeks ago when after Uzoma got hurt, and it might not have been his fault. It actually just might have been Burrow's fault for not targeting him enough.
It was crazy. He had 45 passes in that game. 45 passes, and you're not going to target Sample once. Like, oh my God, I was pulling up my hair. I had Sample everywhere.
Yeah, I did too. And then he did come back last week and had 3 catches for 47 yards, but it wasn't the 7 for 45 against Cleveland that he had. So, but I like his upside a little bit better at Baltimore than Mo
Alley-Cox.
Than Mo Alley-Cox, yeah.
At Cleveland,
exactly.
So, I know that you have plans for tonight, so I don't want to hold you up too much. If we run through these flyers and not really talk about them, we just run through them. Do you have time to set a lineup with me?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. Let's run through these to make sure you can get out of here so you can go, pursue those plans with your husband.
I have my date night with my husband. I already had a glass of champagne. So
you need another one.
I need another one. You're right. I need another champagne. My glass is empty. If I say it loud enough, it might magically refill itself.
Magically, or is that going to be your husband? If you want to, I can run through these real quick while you go refill. There is one that I want to ask you about, but
there will be some champagne coming in. Watch how magic.
Oh, you are so lucky. I wish I could find myself a husband like that.
I know. He's a good one.
It's like a magic laundry basket that we have in the house.
Have you guys seen that coffee table? Video?
Yeah. The magic laundry basket on the coffee table?
No, it's just the coffee table. Like the husband talks about putting, stuff on the coffee table and how it just disappears the next day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it was like a beer commercial or something.
Yeah. The magic laundry basket is the same way. So.
All right. So let's go ahead and run through these. We have for the Flyers, guys. These are Flyers. These are guys that we're not really believing are going to go off, but could go off. Matt Breida revenge game, right? No, I'm just kidding. Good way to start this one out.
Oh Lord.
Oh man, we're talking about Dobbins, 4,300 against Cincy, led the running backs in snaps. Chase Edmonds at the Jets. Claypool up against Philly's interesting tournament play. He's eating into Washington snaps and has seen steady increase in snaps, and he's making big plays. Travis Fulgham. Big shout out to Fulgham. He actually went to school right down the street from me. Fulgham up against the Steelers for the Eagles, at 3K. Jeff Smith at 3K and Jordan Akins. Now there's 2 that I want your input on. Jeff Smith had a great game last week. Is he playable this week? You can just say yes or no or elaborate if you want to. Jeff Smith.
Oh, God. I'm going to go with no. I don't trust any Jets anytime. Flacco's in there. No, I'm going no.
All right. The other one is Kyle Allen. He's only 4,100 up against the Rams. He loves to check down the running back, right? And the Rams are allowing 52 yards per game up against pass-catching running backs. Meanwhile, they haven't played a ton of them. Gibson becomes an interesting play as well. But would you play Kyle Allen? Because if he can get you 20 points, that's like an insane ROI. And you can have I already did like 10 lineups this week, and I have Kyle Allen in like 3 or 4 of them for some weird reason.
Yeah.
Do you think Kyle Allen can actually get you those 20 points? Are you willing to play him?
Yeah. The only thing I worry about Kyle Allen is, well, he's going to play the whole game. They're not going to put Alex Smith in there, and they have Haskins is inactive, so he has to play the whole game. I don't hate it. I mean, the Rams give up a lot of fantasy points to the tight end position, so you can see Allen. I mean, when he was down in Carolina, he targeted the tight end quite a bit. So could you see that happen again? Could you see him targeting, Antonio Gibson quite a bit again? The Washington does target the running back super heavy in the red zone, 25 as opposed to 8 to wide receivers, 6 to tight ends. So I don't hate it. I think Kyle Allen could be a real sneaky play versus the Rams.
I like Kyle Allen a lot, and I think it could be in a lot of these tournament winning lineups, and even cash games. He's super viable, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, cash game, especially. I mean, are you stacking him or are you leaving him alone?
I would go with Gibson. Yeah, Gibson.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to touch Terry McLaurin this week up against Ramsey.
No.
I just can't do it. He's proven to be matchup proof, but honestly, his matchups haven't been that tough. Ramsey's still one of the best corners in the league, and Ramsey he wins some, he loses some, but most of the time he's winning.
Yeah. He's been pretty strong. I don't blame you there.
Bo over here said Zacchaeus. Pretty sure that's how you say it.
Yeah. He's talking about in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's funny. We get these guys that are they're hot for a moment, right? Hot for a moment. He had a big game. I don't know that I'm chasing those points though. But if we have Julio Jones out, maybe I would. I mean, he's cheap. He's cheap enough.
He is, and he could go off, but I mean, honestly, he's more of a gadget guy. He's like, the poor man's version of Jamison Crowder, and he's not going to get you that upside in the targets. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of him, maybe in cash games, but not in tournaments.
You do see Matt Ryan looking at him quite a bit, but I really think that for Atlanta's side, we're going to see more Gurley than anything else. Gurley is where the money is on it.
Yes, I love Gurley. Gurley. All right, let's go ahead and line this up. Can you see this all right?
Yep.
Okay. We're going to start out with, of course, a stack. And, I mean, I kind of talked myself into Lamar Jackson. But
I did too. I'm like, we got to do Lamar.
You want to do Lamar? Let's do Lamar. This is the second time we've done it. We're going to run Lamar by himself. Like, the first time we did Cam Newton by himself. Now we're doing Lamar Jackson by himself. This is a great show.
Fantastic. He had 3 rushing touchdowns in that game.
Oh, man. No, yeah, he did. He crushed it. So, I mean, when me and you are partnered up together, we're going with running quarterbacks, I guess. All right, so that means we're going to have to go lower end on some of these running backs, of course, unless you would like to.
Good choices.
All right. Yeah, we actually do this week. I always like to play the higher end running backs. Like I want a top 5 running back almost every week in both my slots if I can do that. However, this is the week where you can go a little bit cheaper, in my opinion.
How do you feel about Chase Edmonds?
I like Chase Edmonds, but I kind of want to wait to see if he'll fit in our flex here in a little bit.
Okay.
And see, where we go from there. So I do like Chase Edmonds. I don't want people to think I don't. I love Chase Edmonds. I just want to wait and see if he's more of a guy that we can rely on to help us make a lineup work more than trying to base a lineup around him.
What about how you feel about Jet McKinnon?
Ooh, Jet McKinnon up against Miami. Is Raheem Mostert in or out? Because
I have not heard if he's definitely in, but he is coming back from injury, right? So let me see here.
He's expected to be a game time decision, and with my DFS lineups.
Yeah, and it's a knee, so knees are scary.
Yeah, but with my DFS lineups, I don't want to, especially when I'm setting them on Friday, I don't want to have to go back and check them to make sure that my guys are in the last minute.
Yeah,
I
definitely be in.
What's up?
Jerick McKinnon will definitely be in.
Yeah, but Raheem Mostert's going to take over that starting role if he's back. They're not going to play him to be a backup running back.
Well, that's why I understand where you're coming from there. It would be risky. I do like him. I do like Jerick McKinnon this week. And when you look at the target split between wide receiver, tight end, and running back, 53 to wide receivers, 41 to tight end, 42 to running backs. And Jerick McKinnon was 8 of those last week and 12 red zone targets, touches, which is the most on the team overall throughout the weeks by far.
I love Jarrett McKinnon. I don't want you to think that I don't. I love Jarrett McKinnon, but there's two things that scare me. One is that they're not going to need to pass up against Miami, so he's going to see limited passing attempts or passing targets. The other thing is the Raheem Mostert, possible coming back and him just running the ball towards the end. So I think that Jarrett McKinnon, although if Raheem Mostert's out, I love Jarrett McKinnon. I'm playing him everywhere, but I don't know yet, and I don't want to take that risk this early.
Okay.
But I think we have to go with Todd Gurley right off the bat, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Gurley, we've been salivating over, right?
Oh yeah. Now, how do you feel about David Johnson? Because he's sitting right there at 52, looking pretty sexy.
I like David Johnson too. I really do this week. Yeah.
We also have Gibson at 5. So do we want to go up 200 for David Johnson, or do we want to hope for the targets in Washington for Gibson? That's a good one, right? That's a good question.
I'm going to go Gibson.
And we also have Chase Edmonds if you like Chase Edmonds more. But I don't think
like Chase Edmonds, but you said maybe we'll save him for the flex.
So do you like him more than Gibson?
Chase, well, he's going to be splitting time with Drake, but I think that Drake has been not looking great the past few weeks. So I think he's going to get more and more, but Gibson's a sure thing. Gibson he looked great last week. He's just getting better and better, and he's becoming that CMC type of player that Ron Rivera has promised us. So, and this week with the matchup against the Rams, that they're going to be dumping off to him quite a bit. So, yeah, I'd go. I like him. Give me Gibson.
I'll take it. All right, let's go Gibson. Now we're over to the wide receiver, and there's a couple expensive options. They could be good plays, but once again, we started out with Lamar Jackson, so we're left with a little bit of a limited amount. Do we want to go to our defense first and then see how much we're left over with defense and tight end, or do you love a wide receiver so much that you want to smash that play button?
No, I not really. Is there any wide receiver I'm like just crazy about this week? Wait, who did we talk about? We talked about Robbie Anderson, but he's going to be chalky.
I like DJ Moore.
DJ Moore we talked about, and so he could be.
He's only 6.
Yeah, he's 6K, so that's not bad, right?
6 is actually really good. 6 is at the same price as like CeeDee Lamb, Jamison Crowder.
So it's not a bad. It's risky.
Deontay Johnson, Tyler Boyd. It is risky.
It's definitely risky.
But at the same time, it could be a
David Moore.
Who?
Oh no, sorry, that's the Sunday night game. I was just looking at my sheets here, and David Moore. David Moore had a big game last week and is going up against Minnesota this week, but that's the Sunday night game. So never mind me.
He's more of a flash in the pan type guy anyways. He has these big weeks that just pop up out of nowhere. Oh, Slayton. Slayton, we got to get in Slayton, right?
Yeah, Slayton.
He's a cheaper guy anyways.
Get Slayton in there. 48. Right. That's cheap.
That's cheap. I love it.
Let's see here. Greg Ward, I'd like to see a little bit more out of him.
Yeah, I'm not willing to play him because I think his upside is capped with his athletic profile.
Well, it's going to be a pretty low-scoring game, I think, too. So
let's bounce over to tight end real quick and plug in our tight end and our defense and just see what we come out with.
Okay.
So the tight ends, man, like they got some good matchups up here, like we talked about with Drew Sample. You don't like Mo Alley Cox.
No,
so
and I think Cox is going to be very chalky.
Okay. What about like Evan Ingram up against Dallas? We had a lot of people in the comments rooting for Ingram.
Yeah,
like Ingram or Sample more.
I think Ingram is the better play, but he just hasn't quite been who I want him to be yet this season. We're used to Ingram being that top 5 guy, and I'm not seeing that out of him, sadly.
What about Higbee up against Washington? I was going to bring him up, but I just didn't have the show sheet space. Washington's 30th up against the tight end, and he's 5,600. So it would actually kind of limit us with the other positions, but
not feeling Higbee against Higbee. Let me see. Higbee is Yeah, 19 fantasy points to the tight end position.
Yeah.
How much is he?
56. He's 100 less than Zach Ertz, and 600 more than Gesicki, and 900 more than Drew Sample.
See, I'm
still pivoting down to Sample, I think, personally, because I want that money to play at wide receiver this week.
Okay, then go with Sample. We like Sample. He's got the good matchup. He's cheap. He's touchdown dependent.
All right, on to the defenses. Okay. And the one that I noticed while setting my lineups this week, of course, was the Cowboys, only at 3,100. That's a K less than these other positions, but it's like, Arizona's the second ranked one overall.
Yeah. And 4,100.
The Ravens are actually decently priced at 39. That's not bad.
And the Jets, we're not playing any Jets. I'd go Cardinals. The Jets give up a lot of defensive touchdowns. Granted, that was with Sam Darnold. Do you think the same thing's going to happen with Flacco?
Flacco has a tendency to actually throw at the ground instead of throw interceptions. So I'm not even kidding you. Like, it's really weird watching it. Like, I watched him for Denver last year because I was kind of interested in and wanted to see how long he lasted. And I watched every single one of his games. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, that should have been an interception, but instead he threw it to the ground.
Yeah. The only thing that worries me about the Cowboys defense is they give up the most points per game in the league. They're giving up almost like over 35 and close to 40 points per game.
But they've had some tough matchups, right?
They played Cleveland last week.
Cleveland's not a bad team.
Cleveland's not good.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, it's not bad.
And Atlanta, who has a good offense. The Rams have a great offense.
Atlanta's offense is ranked 21st by DVOA.
Who is?
Atlanta's offense is ranked 21st by DVOA. Yeah, we're used to them having a really good offense, and they are putting up a lot of points. But based on the defenses that they're playing, they've played Seattle, they've played the Cowboys. They played what? Now they're playing Carolina. So I worry about the Cowboys. And
I kind of like the Ravens.
I am playing them in one of my season longs. I have them in one of my season longs because the rest of the choices for defense were just crap. But I think
the Ravens are like second or third. The Ravens are second in points so far this year. And although 39 is expensive, it's not that bad.
And they're going against a rookie QB.
Yeah, and we already have Lamar Jackson.
Yep. Cool. There you go. There's your stack.
Done deal. We got a stack. We got the stack because Lamar Jackson's a running back anyways.
All
right. Stack. So, oh man, let's go back to the wide receivers now.
Okay.
We have 19K remaining.
19K remaining. All right. Let's get a good expensive guy in there.
Okay. Will Fuller, you mean, right? I'm just kidding. I know you're not a huge fan of Will Fuller.
I'm just not a Will Fuller fan. Nope, sure not.
Do we go with the chalky lineup since this I don't see anybody else having this lineup or anything close to it, to be honest.
Nope, not even close. So go with a chalky wide receiver.
Amari Cooper or Calvin Ridley?
You gotta go Cooper. I think that's gonna be Ridley I would do Ridley if he plays.
And Julio doesn't, or are you going Ridley anyways?
I'd go Ridley anyway. It doesn't matter if Julio's in or not. Ridley's scoring. So
I'll try and check back with this. You have to message me and remind me.
Can we put them both?
I don't know. I really like Juju though.
Oh, okay.
I know you don't. Wait, if we get in Miles Boykin, we might be able to fit them both in.
Put Boykin in the flex.
Yeah.
Instead of Chase Edmonds?
Maybe. Let's so we're at 63. We actually have a decent amount of cash left.
Yeah.
It's actually a decent amount.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Can we get
let's throw Cooper in there.
Put both in. I think we can get Cooper and Ridley in there.
All right, let's go look at Chase Edmonds. Hold on.
Chase Edmonds is at 40 something.
Because I like this. I was all over Edmonds this entire week. I was talking about
it. I think we're just outside the money there on getting Cooper in there too.
Yeah, Ridley. So I have Cooper in there, but I don't have Ridley. But we can play Juju Smith-Schuster.
Oh, there you go.
Oh my God, 200 left over. This is the lineup. This is going to win it all.
There we go.
I'm going to go put this in the Millie Maker too. I am. Like, I love this lineup. I love every part of this lineup. We've got Lamar Jackson. We've got Todd Gurley. We've got Antonio Gibson. We've got Slayton. We've got Cooper. We got Juju Smith-Schuster. We got Drew Sample. We got Chase Edmonds. We got the Ravens defense. This is literally like my favorite lineup without realizing that it was going to be my favorite lineup.
Yeah. Well, you knew. How could you not think that my lineup with you was going to be your favorite?
Well, I didn't like the Cam Newton call, but you got that one right.
I know. Weird. I know you
Weird.
You were having a hard time with my Cam Newton call. But you know what, Chase, you know, I have nothing but respect for you, my friend, because you do the research, you work hard, you know your stuff. We know different stuff. I like that we know different stuff. You know, I have different types of information than you do. I learn from you. Hopefully you learn from me too.
Dude, I enjoy every single one of our conversations. If I could have this as a daily podcast every day, 7 days a week, I would do it. I swear. It's a lot of work, but I would do it.
You know what? Let's make it happen. Let's get a sponsor and make this stuff happen.
Dude, I'd be down.
Give people what they want.
We should get a sponsor, and we should make this a Friday night thing if you're down. Or we could do Saturday nights. Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. It's the Friday pre-husband date night. You get me warmed up for date night.
Oh God, really? That's where you're going with this? Like, I'm the fluffer?
You're the fluffer. My husband doesn't talk football to me, so there you go.
I'm the fluffer. Oh my God. Oh my God, I'm the fluffer. I never thought I'd be saying that.
Cheers, man.
Oh my God. Cheers. I love it.
Right.
Hey, let everyone know where they can find you, because we do have a decent amount of viewers still here in with us.
Got it. So at Rosalie Michaels on the Twitterverse. And then, of course, you know, I know you do your show right before game time as well. But if you want to flip back and forth, we have the DraftKings The Sweat, which is every Sunday from 11:30 till 1 Eastern time on their YouTube channel, as well as Twitter, live on Twitter. And then I'm with them again on Mondays before the Monday Night Showdown from, it's 5:30 to 6 on Eastern time.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And I respect the hell out of you as well.
You too.
You're one of my favorite guests, hands down. So we have a great time every time you do come on. So maybe we can make this a regular thing. I'd be down.
And your mom's favorite too.
Yeah, my mom watches the podcast from time to time. She has no idea what we're saying, but she'll pop it, and she watches football, but she doesn't understand fantasy.
Your mom is a brilliant woman. Brilliant woman.
She's like, Rosalie is my favorite. Anyways, guys, I appreciate you all for coming in. The people that are asking these questions, in the chats that is not DFS related, I will answer them outside of this podcast. I'll type back to you guys an answer. But yeah, I appreciate you guys for coming in and listening. Thank you guys for being here, and thank you for letting us intervene with your fantasy football life. We're out.